over the weekend, what we could chew on was what the Prime Minister said in his Independence Day speech. He has called for the abolition of the Planning Commission. Well, that was almost expected. What is the ideal replacement for this body? Among other things, he also spoke about a stress on import substitution, maybe more export promotion, the Make in India theme that he elucidated so eloquently. For elucidation of all those issues, we invite economist Ajay Shah, professor at the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy. Good morning, Ajay. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, I guess just the word had to be said about doing away with the Planning Commission. But in your mind, what's a good replacement?
So there are two ideas about why you might have thought the Planning Commission was worth having. First was really out-and-out central planning, okay, where a government would tell you how to design products and processes and pick winners and say that this technology is good or this technology is bad. Okay, that is so passé, so we're finished with it, we will never want it. Now, there is a different kind of question that bedevils the working of government. Government is about producing public goods and addressing market failures, and very often you have a bureaucratic capture of any particular arm of government. Okay, so the education bureaucracy is hijacking the work of government in education.
Yeah.
The police bureaucracy hijacks the work of government in police. The Reserve Bank of India bureaucracy hijacks the work of government in monetary policy, and so on. You get this principal agent problem all the time, that bureaucracies have a way of catering to their own interest and not of serving the people of India. So it would be interesting and useful to find mechanisms through which you get more checks and balances, where there is a measurement of performance, there is an evaluation of how things are being done at present, where things can be done better, and so on. So I think the role model for that is something that in Australia has been called the Productivity Commission. So the Productivity Commission in Australia is an expert body. It is not a decision body. And the way it works is that the design of every single government spending program and the draft of every single law goes to the Productivity Commission. They write a report. The report is tabled in Parliament, and that's part of the public debate. So I think that would be a pretty neat sort of thing to have.
Okay, then it would have to be statutory.
Yeah, so the Australians have walked a very interesting fine line. It is statutory for the Productivity Commission to get involved and have a say on everything that government does. But the Productivity Commission has no authority to block the way things are done. It's only an advisory body. So it's a very interesting statutory advisory body. And over the years, it has achieved the respect and credibility so that when a report comes out from the Productivity Commission, it really has an impact. So it's a very interesting design that there is politics and there is bureaucracy, and the job of the Productivity Commission is to own the productivity piece, is to own the long-term growth and development of the country. So that's an interesting structure that the Australians have done, and I think there are some insights there that we should take.
Okay. Mr. Shah, hi, good morning. The other important point that was made is that India must focus on the manufacturing sector, and it must or we should work towards making it a manufacturing hub. What would your assessment be of how things can progress from here? And more importantly, is the situation at this point conducive enough to get a lot more foreign investors?
Okay, so I think that India has an extremely large underutilized opportunity for playing a bigger role in the global economy, for being connected into global production chains. Okay, we have lots and lots of mistakes in how we do our present policy arrangements. We have mistakes on taxation. We try to tax non-residents. So for that, we need a proper goods and services tax. We have mistakes on the movement of goods within India. For that, we need a goods and services tax. We have mistakes in labor law, which prevent building large organizations. For that, we need reforms of labor law. We need much more improvement on infrastructure so that we can build productive capacity at faraway places in the country where there are low wages. We need to improve law and order so that businesses feel safe going into some of the poor places in India. We need improvements in finance and in capital controls. Okay, all this is the raw material which will create an environment where people both in the Indian private sector and in the global private sector will feel like putting capacity into India. So there is a ton of work waiting to be done, and in some sense nothing is more important for the new government than going after these questions. But I just want to flag some concerns. First is, I don't feel you should make a fetish about manufacturing. Okay, so whether you do manufacturing or whether you do services or whatever it is, what matters is getting high-wage jobs. So our focus should be on people of India getting good jobs, and we should have absolutely no attachment to whether it is in making a shirt or whether it is in making something else. And my second concern is that we should never ever do import substitution. The buyer in India should get the best possible raw material available in the whole world. If South Korean steel is better, we should get South Korean steel. If corporate bonds issued in Britain are better, we should get corporate bonds issued in Britain, and so on. We should never do import substitution. Indian producers should have to fight fair and square for Indian business.
No, I mean, you can't argue against that point at all, Ajay. I guess the consumer repeatedly gets ignored. But from the flavor that you are getting from the government so far, is this philosophy of, allowing the market, allowing the economy to take its own course there at all? It seems to be still, a centrally directed kind of economy that is being contemplated by the new government, albeit with new institutions.
Okay, I think the jury is out. It's too early to tell what the exact direction of policy will be. For example, shutting down the Planning Commission is a very good sign that you want to move away from something that is even remotely sounding like central planning. For example, the Chapter 2 of the Economic Survey was an excellent, clear-minded liberal piece. So I think the jury is out. We have to see how they go. If the government focuses on the public goods and on addressing market failure in the fields of infrastructure, finance, improvements in taxation and so on, I think we'll go a long way.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no, I just wanted to ask you about that other point, about a bank account and insurance for the poor as well. What is your assessment of the financial inclusion plan? And at a time when the banking sector is already undergoing some stress, do you think this will add on to the stress that the sector is facing?
Yeah, I'm not worried about the stress. These are not scary numbers, and I don't think this will do too much damage. Where I have a disagreement is that this is too much central planning. Okay, so my problem with the Nachiket Moore report, my problem with 50 years of failure on financial inclusion, my problem with the new financial inclusion plan is that it's very top-down. It is centrally planned. That's not how you solve problems. Okay, so the analogy I will always give you is mobile phones. For 50 years, India tried a socialist approach. We tried to tell government public sector company, namely BSNL, to go to every village and give them one telephone. And we tried that for 50 years and we failed. We did not even have one telephone in most villages. Okay, and the way out was really to open up to new technology, to open up to competition, to have private and foreign players, and to do things that nobody could have anticipated. Did we know that prepaid accounts and postpaid accounts was such a big distinction? Okay, but in retrospect, prepaid accounts was an absolute breakthrough idea for changing the distribution model of mobile telephony. And today, 70% of India has a mobile phone, not just an ordinary phone. So I think we should be thinking more in terms of the market. That can the government get out of the way and let private competition and let private and foreign players lead the way on financial inclusion. I think we are over-designing this piece.
Oh, well, I'm still not that optimistic about whether the new government is really smelling the coffee the way you are. But, okay, as you say, we have to give the benefit of doubt. You can't judge a 100-day government. Well, finally, what did you make of that stress on states? You know, the speech didn't flow that way, but it seemed to me that the Planning Commission will likely be replaced by a body where states are given adequate representation. The Prime Minister has come with a very strong feeling message, which was there in the manifesto as well, and was there in the speech in some parts, that the states have to be given their due. How do you see that getting either institutionalized, or how should it get institutionalized?
First, I want to say the idea is legitimate. Okay, the Constitution of India is a federal constitution, and different states can and should think differently about what they want to do, say, in education. So far, what we have is a central planning approach, where there is one Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, which is pushed down the throat of every state in the country, and we have decades and decades of failure upon failure as a consequence. So I am very much in support of the principle that the state government is an elected representative of the people, and there is a clear allocation of work that has to be done by the state government, and different states should think for themselves and innovate on their own. So the direction to go in terms of mechanism is quite straightforward, that you stop specifying too much of central schemes, that you let the very scheme design happen to a greater extent at the state level. You have greater autonomy on the part of state governments to spend based on untied block grants. So I think that this is the broad direction of greater decentralization for local public goods. And I think I'm very sympathetic of that approach, that there are national public goods like financial regulation and monetary policy, where it is a job of the central government to make sure that they work properly. And then there are local public goods like drinking water and law and order, which is the work of state governments. The central government should not over-design what is being done at the local level.
All right, Mr. Shah, we leave it at that. Thank you for analyzing that Independence Day speech for us. You have a good day.